In this forecast, rounds of severe thunderstorms will be returning to the southern U.S. as it begins to warm up, with lots of rainfall to bring the risk for flash flooding, a winter storm to bring lots of snowfall to the Midwest, and even an ice over for much of the central U.S. All of what you need to know on Project Gladiator. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Project Gladiator Weekly Overlook, and today I'll be covering the weather for the week of January 21st until around January 28th. So let's start off with the Jetstream pattern, where we are expected to see weather as a general term, but mainly severe thunderstorms as the primary risk for this week. What we are expected to mainly be looking at as far as the Jetstream pattern for this week is going to be this broad trough and this area of low pressure that is expected to sit across the Rocky Mountains. Because it is expected to be sitting across the Rocky Mountains and you don't notice any closed isobars, meaning that it is kind of going to be a disorganized area of low pressure across the Rockies, and it's also not going to be rotating. So it's not going to undergo cyclogenesis, and that may be a limiting factor to this trough. But this trough is expected to advect into a lot of the southern central plains, the Mississippi River Valley, and a very good portion of the eastern half of the United States. And that's mainly where we are expected to be looking for severe thunderstorms, especially the Mississippi River Valley. However, notice the broader trough, how the exit region is mostly zonal and mostly straight. So there's not a lot of veering in those winds, and overall not a lot of shear to support all that much of a risk for tornadoes without additional help. And we are expected to see that additional help. We are expected to see these tiny shortwave troughs that are going to rotate throughout the much broader trough. And basically what shortwaves are is there are these smaller areas of low pressure that will rotate through the much broader trough and locally enhance the risk for severe thunderstorms, and can also locally increase the risk for severe thunderstorms and locally fire up the risk for severe thunderstorms. And we are expected to see a couple of these rotate throughout the much broader trough, around 3 or 4, and that is going to be leading to multiple rounds of severe thunderstorms for the Mississippi River Valley. And that should also increase shear locally, support the risk for tornadoes. But by far the biggest risk for tornadoes is probably going to be around the 27th until the 28th, whenever we actually see this trough begin to move into much flatter terrain and actually begin cyclogenesis, meaning that it is rotating. But it should also take on a more negative tilt, which means that the base of the trough is going to be pushed into the exit region of the trough, in the region that we look for thunderstorms, and that is going to lead to a really good risk for tornadoes on the 27th to the 28th. So we will have to watch around Saturday to Sunday for the risk for tornadoes. Again, the risk for these severe thunderstorms across the Mississippi River Valley in the southeast, again, is going to be the possibility for tornadoes, potentially the risk for some hail, as well as the risk for some damaging winds as well. And as mentioned previously, the risk for flash flooding, because the much broader trough for the early half of this week is expected to be mostly stationary. We are expected to see that front that is going to be associated with this trough become mostly stationary as well across the Mississippi River Valley. And as those different short waves pass through this region and trigger the risk for severe thunderstorms along this boundary, that is going to lead to almost constant and nonstop rainfall for the Mississippi River Valley into regions including Tennessee and even into Kentucky and southern Indiana and southern Illinois. So we are expected to see a ton of rainfall across the regions of concern, which is definitely going to lead to the risk for flash flooding, as rainfall is going to be almost nonstop. Taking a look at our composite reflectivity, I'm going to be going over the when and where you should be able to see our different risks for today, including snowfall, ice, and severe thunderstorms. So let's start off with the western half of the United States, as the western half of the United States doesn't really get all that much love in my videos, but it is necessary to cover. Overall, we aren't really expected to see all that much as far as activity across the Rocky Mountains or across the Pacific Northwest. Nothing too crazy, but we are expected to see quite a bit of rainfall, especially with those short waves that are going to be passing through this region. That is going to be leading to quite a bit of rainfall across the Pacific coast, as well as quite a bit of snow across the Rocky Mountains. But then we can also take a look at when we are expected to see our different rounds for thunderstorms as well. The first rounds for thunderstorms we are expected to see is going to be on the 22nd. And we should also see the possibility of ice developing across Oklahoma into Kansas. More on the ice risk later. But more so, it's going to be pretty good risk on the 22nd for ice, as well as quite a bit of snow with that first short wave as it passes through. We should see quite a bit of snow extending into the Midwest, into Chicago, and around the Wisconsin, northern Illinois, northern Indiana, around the Ohio River Valley region, with severe thunderstorms across eastern into central Texas, around that region. And then into the 23rd, we are expected to see that shortwave really push off to the north here, with tons of snowfall for the Midwest region back into Iowa, southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, Michigan, and into Pennsylvania, as well as some ice for some of the northern Ohio River Valley. And a lot of that rainfall is going to be pushing off into the eastern half of the United States as that shortwave moves off. And then as far as the second round for severe thunderstorms, that is expected to begin around the 23rd into the 24th, as we are expected to see very widespread rainfall across a lot of the central plains in the Mississippi River Valley, with severe thunderstorms being mostly organized and isolated to a lot of the Mississippi River Valley around Arkansas, Mississippi, western Tennessee, Louisiana, and then we are expected to see another round of severe thunderstorms around that along that stationary boundary along the 24th, and then into the 25th, another round of severe thunderstorms as well. 26th. We are expected to see that trough begin to move a little bit, so we are expected to see that risk for severe thunderstorms push off to the east a little bit into a lot of the deep southeast, around Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, Georgia, South Carolina on the 26th, with some rainfall that is going to be lingering back across the Oklahoma and Arkansas region. And then into the 27th, we are expected to see another shortwave pass through, and this is going to really be when the trough starts to move, and that really powerful shortwave trough pushes through the region. And again, this is going to be the biggest risk for tornadoes that we will have to watch out for. We are expected to see widespread rainfall for a lot of the Tennessee region and a lot of the deep southeast, and that is going to push off into the 28th for a lot of the eastern seaboard around Maryland, into Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia, and potentially even back into Tennessee. And then into early next week, that is going to push off into the Atlantic Ocean. Taking a look at our dew points, we're going to be diving into the risk for severe thunderstorms a little bit more in depth, mainly taking a look at dew points because this is what is needed for overall the fuel for severe thunderstorms. And by taking a look at dew points, we can see overall where the plume for fuel is expected to be for our severe thunderstorms, or fuel in other words for instability. So we are expected to see quite a bit of moisture return pretty quickly to a lot of the southeastern United States in the region of concern. However, that does bring up a lot of uncertainty as to the quality of the moisture and overall how much instability and fuel for severe thunderstorms we are expected to see come out of this, because it is going to be in close proximity in time, relatively speaking, to the cold front that just blasted through earlier last week. And because of how quickly it will have to recover, again, overall, I'm a little bit concerned and uncertain about how the quality of the instability is going to be. But if models continue to look as the way they do, then we could be in for quite a bit of severe thunderstorms, as we are going to see quite a bit of ample instability and quite a bit of ample moisture. With dew points are going to be around the mid 60s, potentially getting pretty close to the 70s and upper 60s, closer down to the Gulf of Mexico. Again, we do have the uncertainty in place with that we will have to watch. But overall, if models continue the way that they are looking, should definitely see a lot of fuel across this region to support the risk for severe thunderstorms. Taking a look at our supercell composite, basically what this does is it combines everything in the atmosphere to give us the best chance for severe thunderstorms or supercell to form. So taking a look at our supercell composite, you can see that our supercell composites are definitely indicating the risk for quite a bit of severe thunderstorms across a lot of the southeast and southern central plains, with more days being a little bit greater than others. However, our supercell composites are a little bit more on the iffy side, indicating that storms may be a little bit more on the lighter side, but again, some days are going to be greater than others. So overall, storms may not be as bad as what you guys are thinking, because overall the trough itself is fairly limited. But then we can also take a look at the 27th and 26th, and overall they do look fairly a little bit more on the lower end. So we will have to watch this. So overall, supercell composites may be indicating that storms may be a little bit lighter than what you are anticipating. We can also take a look at energy helicity index to give us the best chance for tornadoes across this region. Hence the name energy helicity index, as it does combine the fuel for severe thunderstorms, or the energy in the atmosphere, as well as the shear for tornadoes to actually allow storms to rotate. Again, hence the name energy helicity index. Again, this does give us the best, does indicate where the best chance for tornadoes might be, and overall gives us the best idea for tornado potential, and it definitely does look like some days should see the possibility of tornadoes, like some days on the 24th, where we do have pretty big bullseye for Louisiana to Mississippi. It is going to be a little bit more on the lower end, but still indicating that there may be the possibility of some tornadoes there. But again, we will have to watch to see how this turns out. Taking a look at the Storm Prediction Center and what they currently have issued for severe thunderstorms. As of right now, for today and for tomorrow, we don't have anywhere issued as far as severe thunderstorms, but we could see some general thunderstorms and some rain showers for a lot of the southern central plains around Texas into the Mississippi River Valley. However, for our day 3 outlook, which is on the 23rd, this is when things really begin to pick up, as the SPC does have indicated a marginal threat for severe thunderstorms for southern Texas into southeastern Texas, which is overall going to probably begin the risk for severe thunderstorms and the rounds of severe thunderstorms that we are expected to see across a lot of the southern United States. Taking a look at our total precipitation, we're going to be going over the risk for flash flooding that we are currently seeing or expected to have across a lot of the southern United States around the Mississippi River Valley. A lot of models are indicating that we may have anywhere from 3 to 4 inches as overall the average, potentially up to 5 inches and maybe even 6 inches across a lot of the Mississippi River Valley is overall the average for rainfall across this region. However, models are indicating that we may even be able to see upwards of 7 to potentially 8 inches of rainfall for the Mississippi River Valley. So, as this all pours down from the sky, we should definitely see the possibility of flash flooding across the Mississippi River Valley. We can also see what the WPC, or the Weather Prediction Center, currently has issued as far as outlooks for excessive rainfall and flash flooding across the United States up till 5 days out. For today, we are currently seeing the risk for flash flooding across the Pacific coast, as we do see a lot of rainfall coming out of the Pacific Ocean. However, we do have a marginal threat for southern Texas, and then into tomorrow we are expected to see again another risk for flash flooding across the vast majority of the Pacific coast, but we should also see a slight risk for flash flooding across eastern Texas into Arkansas and Louisiana. Something I do want to note about these outlooks is that they definitely are subject to change by the time these outlooks do roll around. For day 3, another slight risk for a lot of the Mississippi River Valley, same for day 4, and for day 5 that is going to be pushing eastward a little bit more into a lot of the more Dixie states around Mississippi, Alabama, northern Georgia, and into Tennessee and the Florida Panhandle. So overall, the WPC is currently on board with the risk for quite a bit of flash flooding and quite a bit of rainfall across a lot of the Mississippi River Valley. And then taking a look at the snow that we are expected to see for the Midwest this week, associated with one of those shortwave troughs, we are expected to see quite a bit of snowfall. However, this is the GFS models, and GFS models do take into account the entire world, and looking at models at a small scale like this, and especially at such a far distance out, things are definitely a little bit bigger or smaller than what they may see. And right now, it does look like it is going to be a little bit bigger than what they are saying, with models indicating that we should see upwards of 7 to 8 inches across parts of Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and back into Iowa. But overall, this should potentially be a little bit lower than what the GFS is saying, but it does show where we are expected to see our snowfall. We are expected to see the majority of our snowfall extend from the Central Plains into Iowa, the Midwest, southern Wisconsin, into northern Illinois, across Michigan, and into the New England corridor is where we are expected to see the best risk for snowfall. And then taking a look at the WPC again, we can take a look at what they currently have issued for snowfall this week, specifically heavy snowfall. What we're currently looking for right now is snowfall totals that are going to be greater than 4 inches. So on the days that we are expected to see snowfall, not only are we expected to see quite a bit of snowfall that I forgot to mention across a lot of the Rockies, but what the WBC is currently saying is that we aren't expected to have nearly as much snow across the Ohio River Valley, New England corridor in the Midwest is what the GFS models are saying. As overall, we do have some spotty areas for some heavy snow that may get greater than 4 inches or right around 4 inches, but overall the outlooks that the WPC does currently have issued do indicate that the majority of the snowfall should stay below 4 inches. But again, we do have the potential for quite a bit of snowfall for the Midwest into Michigan and the New England corridor. And then taking a look at the ice that we are expected to see for a lot of the Central Plains into the Ohio River Valley and the New England corridor. Again, we are expected to see an ice storm that is going to move along with that first trough around the 24th. We are expected to see quite a bit of ice, and you can see where we are expected to have our ice. We are expected to see the majority of our ice that is going to be extending from the northern border of Texas up across a lot of the central United States, across Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, across the vast majority of Illinois, northern Indiana, in the Ohio River Valley, across southern Michigan, northern Ohio, northern Indiana, and then even into parts of the New England corridor. Overall, ice doesn't look like it is expected to be very thick, but still hazardous. With ice, that is going to make roads extremely hazardous and fairly slippery. I'm currently living in Tennessee, and we still have ice on the roads from the snow that we got earlier last week. So we are definitely expected to see fairly hazardous roads across a lot of the United States and the regions that are going to be impacted by this ice. So if you do live in any of the areas, I highly recommend that you stay at home and do not drive in the areas that are going to be affected, as roads are going to be extremely hazardous. If you absolutely have to drive, then please take extreme caution on the road, as even if you are taking extreme caution, you don't know if other people on the road are. So again, definitely make sure you're taking extreme precaution on the roads in any of the areas that may be impacted. And then finally, taking a look at the temperatures that we are expected to see across a lot of the United States this week. Right off the bat, for the very beginning of the week, it is expected to remain quite cold until I think around Monday. Around Tuesday is when things are expected to warm up quite a bit. On Monday, or the night of on Sunday, we are expected to see temperatures that are going to be getting around freezing for a very good portion of the United States, potentially even into the negatives for some portions of the Midwest, which is definitely going to be quite dangerous. So definitely make sure you're checking the temperature if you have any plans later tonight. However, on Tuesday is going to be when things are expected to warm up quite a bit, as we are expected to see a ton of heat recover in the southeast. And the southern central plains, with temperatures that may be getting upwards of the mid and upper 60s and potentially even into the 70s. So it is expected to get much warmer across the southern half of the United States, and that should help with our severe thunderstorms quite a bit to help fuel them, as you do need heat for severe thunderstorms. But across the vast majority of the United States and the areas that we used to see extremely cold temperatures for last week, it is going to stay quite cold in some regions, potentially getting below freezing in some far northern portions of the United States, like North Dakota, South Dakota, parts of Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and the New England corridor. However, it shouldn't be nearly as cold as what we saw last week. Before I end the video and let you all free, I do want to talk about the GoFundMe for Project Gladiator real quick. Project Gladiator is for the sole purpose of designing, developing, and creating an absolutely insanely powerful and capable storm chasing vehicle that will gather information and data from some of the strongest tornadoes, which some tornado intercept vehicles as of right now may not be able to. I'm talking EF4, EF5, potentially even stronger tornadoes, and this will lead to crucial breakthroughs and information about tornadoes. So if you do want to donate to the cause, the link is in the description. It helps a ton, and I hope to see you guys out in the field. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. If you live in any of the areas that I covered for this week, please stay with it or live for the time being. If you notice anything might have been wrong with this forecast, or you would like to ask a question or leave a suggestion, please leave a comment. I do read them. 2 other channels that I highly suggest you check out, which the links to their channels will be in the description, are One Nation Weather and Weather Watcher. Their channels are absolutely amazing. Weather Watcher even does forecast on Europe, so if you want to, please go down and check out their channels, and hopefully I'll be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.